The US and Afghanistan just made a deal regarding US troop presence, and we will now be staying there another 11 years. That's right, the war in Afghanistan, which is almost like the forgotten war because it's not even like political pundits talk about it often. We're at war and we don't even talk about it. And I'm guilty of it too. I should probably talk about it way more often than I do. Well, now we're staying there another 11 years. That means when all would be said and done in Afghanistan, that is if they don't extend it again, which they probably will if history is any judge, we will have been there 23 years total. We're also going to be pouring billions of dollars into Afghanistan. The troop levels will remain from about 8,000 soldiers to 12,000 soldiers. Hope and change! There you go, hope and change. We voted for it. And by that, he means he's going to be like Bush, but on steroids and human growth hormone. When he said change, what he meant was, I will change and be further right-wing and more neoconservative. Well, thanks so much, President Obama. We really appreciate that you're doing the exact opposite of what we voted you in office to do. Under the deal, Americans remain immune to Afghan law and investigations, and they can still do raids of private Afghan homes without consequence. Now, that's something that originally was a big disagreement in these negotiations because Karzai said no to that all along. He said, look, if you're going to stay here, here's what's for sure. You're not going to be doing any raids of private Afghan civilians' homes. And now he caved on that. So listen to the White House spin on this, too. They take us for idiots. According to a top administration official, quote, while we are open to keeping a residual force in Afghanistan to carry out the narrow missions of counterterrorism and training, there is no scenario in which those forces would stay in Afghanistan until anywhere near 2024. There would be no direct combat role for most of those troops who would be assigned to major headquarters and not out in the field with Afghan units. There would be a much smaller counterterrorism force envisioned by American and NATO planners. So let me decode that for you. Yes, the deal says all those things, like we're going to stay there until 2024, and we are going to have a military presence, and we are going to be doing raids and whatnot, and we are going to be fighting and doing combat missions. But forget what the deal says. Just trust me when I say we're totally not going to do it. Yeah, forgive me if I don't believe you, since you've been lying to us all along, and that's kind of what the government does on a regular basis. But here's my favorite part of the story, because this is so symbolic of how U.S. imperialism functions around the world today. Quote, a senior aide to Mr. Karzai had said the Afghan leader would not approve an agreement unless President Obama sent a letter acknowledging American military mistakes during the 12-year war. But on Wednesday, Mr. Kerry emphatically insisted that a deal was reached with no American apology forthcoming. John Kerry responded by saying, quote, I mean, it's just not even on the table. So understand what's going on here. In the negotiations with Karzai, Karzai originally says, here's what's going to happen. If you're going to stay here, you are going to subject American soldiers who kill civilians to Afghan courts. You're not going to be doing raids of random houses anymore, and I want President Obama sending me a letter that details the mistakes that you made in this war. Totally reasonable, considering that we occupied a sovereign country for 12 frickin' years. And if the goal was to get Al-Qaeda out of there, mission accomplished. If the goal was to kill Osama bin Laden, mission accomplished, but we're still there. But the U.S. says, no, we're not going to have anybody in Afghan courts. Yes, we are going to continue doing raids. And here, you want an apology letter? Shove it up your ass. We don't care. Anyway, we're staying there. Sign here. What now? That is only exactly how an international bully acts. And I'm sick and tired of people saying, you know, oh, you're wrong on this issue. We're actually doing the right thing, or I don't know who could possibly believe this at this late point. But I got news for you, man. We live in a democracy, and 69% of the American people say they want to end the war immediately. And that was back in 2012. The number's definitely gone up since. And 69% even said it wasn't worth fighting in the first place. If anything, we could have sent SEAL Team 6 around to kill bin Laden or kill the Al-Qaeda number 1 or 2 guys, and there's no problem with that. People would support that. But look at how much money we wasted in Iraq and Afghanistan. $7 trillion in Iraq when all is said and done by 2053. And what do we have to show for it? Nothing.